going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be starting a VC thread of an idea that I thought of recently, and that is live albums from tours that I saw. Now, live albums are a special thing. It places you right front and center of the audience. It represents a live experience. Or in some cases, it provides a permanent concert souvenir. It lasts its welcome more than a $40 t-shirt that will wear out with time, or a $7 beer that leaves your body as soon as it enters. So I decided to take a look at my vinyl collection and compile a list of the live albums that I own from tours that I saw, and also provide some insightful stories from my experiences seeing them. So anyways, enough of the chit-chat, let's jump into what this video is all about. The first album I'm going to show you guys is Black Sabbath's The End, live in Birmingham. This album was recorded at the band's last show from their farewell tour back in 2017. And I was very lucky to catch this tour when it came to Camden, or Philly, depending on what you want to call it, back in the summer of 2016. And out of the two times I've seen Sabbath live, the first time being the 13 tour, and the second time around being this tour, this one was probably my favorite, simply because they pulled out some really cool gems to add to the set list, such as After Forever and Hand of Doom, you know, songs that you don't really hear Sabbath play frequently, so it was cool to kind of hear some of those deep cuts. And Sabbath has never disappointed out of the two times I've seen them, and just the excitement runs in your blood when the house lights hit and you see Ozzy run out to his mic stand, because Ozzy already is just such a larger-than-life character that seeing him in the flesh was just super cool. And along with Tony Geezer and Tommy Clufitos, who was on the drum kit, it was just an absolutely memorable and exciting show. Next up is A Paranormal Evening with Alice Cooper at the Olympia in Paris. This, of course, was recorded during the Paranormal Evening with Alice Cooper tour, and I was very lucky to catch the tour when it came to Atlantic City back in September of 2018. And what was really crazy about this tour was that this was the first time that I saw Alice as a headline act, because every other time that I've seen Alice in the past, he was opening for somebody. The first time around, he opened up for Iron Maiden during their Maiden England tour, and then he opened up for Motley Crue during their farewell tour. So this was a first for me. And it was just a fantastic show. Great set list. He did things like Cold Ethel, Only Women Bleed, Lost in America, and of course all the other classics. Ballad of Dwight Fry, School's Out, all that stuff. I was going to paint my face in the Alice makeup, but I did not have any makeup on hand. And when we got to the venue, because the show was at the Tropicana Casino in Atlantic City, from where I was sitting, I saw a little girl sitting in the front row, and she had the makeup on herself, and I just said to myself, I couldn't have topped that. So maybe it was good that I did not put my face up. And one of the things that I distinctively remember about this show was that a week prior to the Alice show, my grandmother had passed away. And, you know, in my family, we had lost various other relatives, like great aunts and, you know, other people here and there. But this was the first real huge major loss that we had in my family. And it was just a real earth-shaking kind of moment for us, including myself. I was coping to the best of my abilities. And my dad and I went to this show, and it was just a great escape. You know, that's the power of music and just simply having a great time. It just kind of took me away from what was going on back at home, and I got to enjoy myself with my dad at this show. And I remember just when the show was done and the house lights came on, I looked to my dad and I said, I think this was what we needed. And so this particular show and this live album holds a bit of a special place in my heart. Now, even though this next record I'm going to show you guys does come from a tour that I saw, it is indeed a bootleg release, but I honestly couldn't go without mentioning this live show, and that is Ghost, A Pale Tour Named Death in North America. Now, what's crazy about this bootleg is that this was recorded on December the 5th in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I caught the show at the Tower Theater basically a whole week after that show. And it was honestly one of the greatest shows that I ever saw in my life. My dad and I managed to get VIP packages, which basically gave us a whole swag bag full of merchandise. There's a mask handle, a puzzle, and a signed photo, as well as early entry into the venue. And we basically stood about 2 to 3 feet away from the barrier, so we had a really good view of the stage, and I'm going to include some video clips so you can kind of see what the show was like. It was an absolutely fantastic evening. This was the first time that I saw Ghost headline. The previous 2 times I saw them open for Iron Maiden, and they performed as part of the MMR barbecue in Camden, and they did a full-on evening with show. Basically 2 hour-long sets, no opening act, and they delivered such an amazing show. My dad and I, we were on our feet for roughly 4 hours, but honestly, it was worth it. And around this time, since it was right around Christmas, you know, I was working at a bookstore at the time of the holidays, and working retail during the holidays does take its mental toll. So seeing the show truly made it all worthwhile and kind of gave me a push to get through the rest of the season. And speaking of Iron Maiden, there's also this album, Iron Maiden's The Book of Souls live chapter. This was recorded across multiple shows during the band's Book of Souls world tour, and I caught this tour when it came to Philly at the Wells Fargo Center back in June of 2017. And my dad and I had every intention of catching this tour because it had been a long time since we last saw Maiden, the last time being 2012's Maiden England tour. But what was really special about this show that I saw was that I brought my best friend Donovan with me, and Donovan is a huge metal fan, and so I got him a ticket to this show as a birthday gift for him, and we had such an awesome time. We were sitting right up at the top tier level of the Wells Fargo Center, and it was just an absolute great show. Maiden is like fine wine. It just gets better with age. And it was also this show that we first saw Ghost, who was the opening act for the show. We were absolutely blown away by them, but Maiden just delivered an absolutely amazing set. And thankfully, I have this live album to relive the entire evening. Next up is Motley Crue's The End, live in Los Angeles. This part of the title has absolutely no meaning at this point. But then again, as you can tell, I like to make the farewell tour circuits. So I caught this tour twice. The first time around, it was when they played at the BB&T Pavilion in Camden back in August of 2014. And if that was going to be the last time I saw Motley Crue, that was perfect because the set list was excellent. There was a heavy emphasis on the Too Fast for Love album, which is my favorite Motley Crue record. There was a little part in the show where Nikki Sixx was kind of talking about how the band got together. Tommy Lee did his whole drum solo thing, and then they came out to the little mini stage at the very end for Home Sweet Home, video montage playing. It was just a nice way to wrap up the night. And then, like, it almost got to me when Vince Neil was like, "We're gonna miss you, Philly," and I'm just like, damn, that hit hard. But then again, a year later, I learned that it's never really the last time that they come to your local city, because they came and played the indoor arena, Wells Fargo Center, almost, I would say, a year to the day in August of 2015, and just something was missing from that show. It was a whole new production, and, you know, they tinkered with the set list a little bit, same theatrics, you know, with Tommy Lee solo, and the band came out to the little mini stage. You know, it was all right, but it just did not have that same impact from the show the year before. But nonetheless, I am happy to have caught this tour. Buckle up, guys. I have a lot of Rush concert stories to tell you. So the first time that I saw Rush was this tour, the Time Machine tour. And this is the corresponding live album, Time Machine live in Cleveland 2011. And I could have seen Rush a couple of times prior to this. I could have caught the 30th anniversary tour. I could have caught the Snakes and Arrows tour multiple times, but I was kind of a late bloomer for shows. I went to a few as a kid, kind of stopped going to them, and then as I got older, I kind of just picked up the pace. And this was a fantastic tour to see, because they weren't really pushing an album. They played Moving Pictures in its entirety from start to finish. They debuted a couple of new tracks that were going to be on the band's ultimately final album, Clockwork Angels, and they even played some stuff, a lot of deep cuts and fan favorites that were either rarely played live or never played at all. Things such as Presto, Stick It Out, Faithless, Marathon, just a lot of great deep Rush tunes. And I had the immense honor of catching this tour 4 times. First time around was in Camden back in July of 2010. And then the second time was a month later in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And what I remember about that show was that there was a long traffic jam leading up to the Allentown Fairgrounds where the show was being held. And this line was not moving. So I remember getting out of the car, running through the traffic to get to the fairgrounds, having my ticket at hand, and there's the small space between where the floor seats are and where the stands are. And I was up at the stands, literally running down this space, working my way to my seat as the intro video was playing as the show was about to start. And luckily, by the time I got to my seat, the show was in full swing. And so I made perfect timing. And I remember my parents ran into an old family friend, and we all met up at this diner at like 1 o'clock in the morning that was still open. And what was crazy was that, and we didn't find this out until after we left the Holiday Inn that we stayed at, the road crew was staying at the same hotel as we were, which was pretty wild. And then the third time, which was in early September, it was up in Homedale, which is kind of like in north to mid Jersey. I was sitting in the lawn for that show, and it was a good show. It was the last one of the summer U.S. leg back in 2010, and you know, it was fun. It was great. And then they did a spring leg in 2011, which is where this live album comes from. My family and I, we caught the show up in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And I remember I was really, really sick. It was just the usual spring cold that kind of gets to everyone around April, around that time of year. And it's crazy what the excitement of a show can do to one, because as soon as we got to the venue, I felt completely fine. It was absolutely crazy. And what was really cool where my dad and I were sitting, because my mom and her sister, which is my godmother, they're two of the biggest female Rush fans. They were sitting right in the front row. And my dad and I, we were kind of sitting off to the side on the first level up from the stage. And I don't know how other venues are, but usually like when I have to go to get like a drink or something to eat at a concession stand, I have to leave my seat entirely, leave the section, walk around like the outer perimeter of the venue to get something, and then go back to my seat. Where my dad and I were sitting at the arena, which is in Hershey, there was like a drink and snack bar literally just in the main vicinity of where we were sitting. I don't know if this was for every area, but literally we just walked up a couple steps, and there it was. It was just totally convenient. And another thing that I remember from that particular show was that we stayed at the Hotel Hershey, which is one of the fanciest hotels I had ever seen. Like when you check in and they ask you milk or dark chocolate, you know it's fancy. So I have a lot of great memories when it comes to that tour, as you just heard. I hope you guys stayed for that entire story time telling. And then the other tour that I caught, which is on vinyl, is the Clockwork Angels tour. Now, I could have seen this tour twice. They came to Philly around the fall of 2012, but I was in the high school marching band, and we had to be at all of the football games on Friday nights. And of course, the show was on a Friday night, so I was not able to go. But literally, I remember coming home. I had the house to myself. The phone's ringing, and it's my mom holding like the phone out, you know, so I can play Name That Tune and guess what song they were playing. I'm just like, really, you're doing this to me? But the one time that I caught the tour, it was in spring of 2013. They did another U.S. leg. They played at the Edis Arena, which is what is now known as the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. And that was actually the closest I ever was for a Rush show. I was sitting in third row, and it was an absolutely fantastic tour. They brought out the string ensemble to play with them during the second part of the show, which was devoted mainly to the Clockwork Angels material, as well as some reworkings of some older material. But yeah, that show from the Clockwork Angels tour definitely stands out because it was indeed the closest I ever sat for a Rush show. Now, this is going to be the last band I'm going to be discussing in this video, but it does serve as the one band that I have the most live albums of on vinyl from tours that I saw, and that is Yes, and this album is called Like It Is, Yes, at the Mesa Art Center. This was recorded during the band's summer U.S. tour back in 2014, and what was really cool about this tour was that they performed Fragile and Close to the Edge, start to finish, along with some new material that was going to be coming off of their then new album, Heaven and Earth, which came out during that summer. And this live album simply just has the Close to the Edge, Fragile portion of the show. But I caught this tour when it came to the Tower Theater in Philly back in July of 2014. And I would say out of all the times that I had seen Yes with Chris Squire, this was the best one. I had amazing second row seats, had a great view of the stage, and I don't know if there are any bootlegs that circulate from the show that I saw at the Tower Theater, because I was perhaps sitting in front of the person that recorded the show. So I remember at the very end of the show, I got up from my seat to applaud, and I remember this lady sitting in front of me had a Yes tote bag, and she reached into it and had a little digital handheld recorder and pressed stop. So I'm assuming that, you know, if there's any bootlegs that circulate, it was probably from that one individual. And another great memory that I have from this concert was that I did indeed meet the band after the show, since I had a meet and greet package. And since I did not have any Yes records at the time, they did sign my CD covers. And it was just really surreal. You know, I'm looking face to face with Chris Squire, and he's asking me, how was the show? Did you enjoy it? Steve Howe asked me how I was doing, and I'm like, you guys are in too much of a bigger league to be talking to me. It was just really cool, and it's just a really great memory to attach with that show. I remember my family and I, we ate at a Denny's at like 2 o'clock in the morning. It was just an absolutely fun time. And that was also Chris Squire's last U.S. tour with the band, since he did pass away in the summer of 2015. And the next tour that I saw was the Topographic Drama Tour. Now, this tour was cool. They played Drama from start to finish, one of my favorite Yes albums. It was so cool to hear that played live. And they did sides 1 and 4 of Tales from Topographic Oceans. And what's cool about this live album is that it includes the entire show. The other, like It Is live albums just include the album portions from those shows, whereas this, we have the main album stuff as well as some other Yes classics. And one of the funniest things that I remember from this show was that before they played side 4, which is Ritual from Topographic, they played a piece of music called Leaves of Green, which is featured on the tail end of side 3, The Ancient from Topographic. Starts out with this acoustic Steve Howe guitar bit, and I guess either the audience started applauding too soon, or they were talking, because let's just say when you disrupt Steve Howe playing acoustic guitar, your life will flash before your eyes and you will get scolded. And if I can find the video clip, I will insert it. And one of the coolest things when they did Ritual was that there's that little middle section where they have all the drums and the percussion going off. The stage got really dim. They had all these lights kind of flashing. And there were like these little dry ice smoke machines that would poof out, you know, clouds of dry ice and smoke, and there were blue lights underneath where, you know, those little things were shooting out. So it looked like blue smoke was coming. It just kind of gave me a vibe of like an old school 70s Yes shows when they had the huge productions, and that was like the real, you know, climactic, you know, most dramatic part of the show when they did that little middle section of Ritual. So it was really cool to see that and all its kind of theatrical glory. And it definitely was a cool show despite Chris Squire's absence. Billy Sherwood stepped up on bass as per Chris's blessings. So it really was a cool show to catch. And then there's this one. Is it Yes? Is it ARW? Yes featuring ARW, however you want to call it. Anderson, Rabin, Wakeman, 3 notable members from Yes, John Anderson being the voice of Yes, Rick Wakeman perhaps being the most notable Yes keyboardist, and Trevor Rabin, who brought forth the band's biggest hit, Owner of a Lonely Heart. This is the Live at the Apollo live album. This show, I believe, was recorded in like early 2017, but I saw this incarnation of Yes twice back, I think in November of 2016. First time was at the Count Basie Theater up in Red Bank, New Jersey, which is kind of up north a little bit. And then I saw them at the Borgata in Atlantic City. And I had front row seats for the Count Basie Red Bank show. And it was just so wild because at the very beginning of the show, they played Cinema from the 90125 album, which led into Perpetual Change. And Trevor Rabin is literally standing right at the lip of the stage, his guitar right in front of me, his classic 80s guitar with the graffiti and stuff. And I'm just like, oh my, like it was just so surreal. And then the Borgata show was cool. And what I remember was they had it at this part of the casino called the Event Center. And you go up these escalators to get there, you come down, and we ate at this restaurant called the Metropolitan, which is just right outside the Event Center. And one by one, they started coming down the escalator. The main members of the band, as well as some of the backing band. There was a bassist and a drummer that obviously was not part of Yes, but they were in the band as well. I had a chance to meet Rick Wakeman. I just shook his hand real quick. He kind of disappeared. But then I saw Trevor Rabin come down, and we snapped a selfie together. And the bassist was a guy by the name of Lee Pomeroy, who played bass with Steve Hackett. He also played with Jeff Lynne for ELO, and then he joined Yes. And honestly, these two shows were really good. And is it the real deal? I don't know. I try to cut, Steve Howe's Yes some slack just because they live by name. They have the logo, but I don't know. Let's have a Union 2.0. Let's have both bands join together, have another union like the early 90s, and, do it for the fans. I'm sure the fans would love it. I would love it. But, yeah, these guys this is the Yes to kind of go see. And the last record I'm going to show you guys is Yes 50 Live. This was recorded during the band's 50th anniversary tour, which I did see in Atlantic City back around July of 2018. Had really good seats for that show. I believe I was right in the front row. Tony Kaye was the special guest, so it was cool to see him play on Yours Is No Disgrace. And I did meet the band after the show, hence why my copy of Topographic Drama is signed. But here's the crazy part with this album. I could have been at the shows that were recorded for this album. This was recorded over 2 nights at the Fillmore in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is a really important city for Yes. They've always had a strong following, always played the Spectrum, the Tower Theater, like I mentioned earlier. And they had a Yes convention. Roger Dean was there. Patrick Moraz was there. And I'm kind of kicking myself that my family and I did not go to these 2 Philly shows. We just kind of figured we saw, Atlantic City. What else was there? And who knew? If we knew that they were going to record a record, hey, we would have been there. You probably would have heard me go, woo, or whatever. But nonetheless, this is a rather cool Yes Live album. Does not necessarily bring all the usual stuff that we always hear on Yes Live albums. We have some other things on here, such as 9 Voices. What else is on here? Parallels, Awaken, Soon, We Can Fly From Here, all that cool, deep Yes kind of stuff. So I think this collection itself is a really cool showcase of some of the other things that entail with their 50-plus year career. So there you guys go. Those are some live albums from tours that I saw. If there are any live albums that you guys have from tours that you saw, please go ahead and make a video or leave a comment down below. I'd love to know. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support this channel, be sure to check me out on Patreon. See you guys in the next video. And most importantly, keep the records spinning.